The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
How are you, sir?
This is Pierre.
Oh.
I can't believe I'm talking to you, Dr. Ray the Great.
Well, I don't know about that.
I love listening to you. You have a personality just like my father.
I don't think you should feel helpless. You are helpless.
Doctor, I really appreciate that. That makes me feel a lot better.
You be at peace, or else I'm going to yell at you.
Trying to find a reason to speak to you. I think you're the best thing since sliced bread.
That Ray, he's something.
Thank you so much for what you're doing for all the parents out there.
I don't know what I can possibly do.
I don't either.
I'm getting my money worth, I think, at this phone call.
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
I got a microphone. I'm not afraid to use it. Heard of those saints that can bilocate? Well, I'm going to bilocute. Talk to two different cities at the same time. Actually, it could be omnilocute. More than two cities. Good to have you here on The Doctor Is In, if you're with me. This is a variant, the Monday variant of The Doctor Is In. This is E-Person Monday. My phone just can never, ever get E-Person right in the talk-to-text. It's always each person, ED person, A person, and I've corrected it so many times, and you think it would learn. Of course, that might have something to do with I have an iPhone 2. It has a rotary dial on it. I'm getting there. Tolerating the looks of my children who look at me like, Dad. You know they don't even support those things anymore. So, anyway, when we get to these e-persons, which are really emails, but I call them e-persons because I want to be gender sensitive. Not all males, e-females, something. I years ago was dominating the Catholic Renaissance Media Humility Competition. I did. I won it 8 years in a row. Dominated it. And to win the Humility Award, there's a trick to it. You can't show up to collect the award. Because as soon as you show up to collect the award, you lose it. You have to be humble about this whole thing and just not show, because you implicitly are saying you don't deserve it. Now, in the Humility Award competition, we had to, it was called the creativity segment, and we had to come up with something. You know how they do this on the on these Miss America or Miss Universe or Ms. America, Ms. Universe or Person Universe. And they say things like, so what would your wish for the world be? I would like for world peace and everybody to get along and get up in the morning and say hello with a smile on their face. Well, I wrote a poem, and I used it 3 years in a row. I want to be famous so I can be humble about being famous. What good is my humility when I am stuck in this obscurity? There it is. You can't really be humble if you're unknown. You got to be really well known, and the more well known you are, then you can be more humble. It's tricky stuff, this humility. It's really tricky stuff. It's the one thing, it's the one virtue that if you think you have it, you don't have it. Anyway, enough of that backdrop. The dominant fear, the number one fear among people, and it could go so far as almost being a neurosis, a phobia, if you will, is not snakes, it's not heights, it's not closed spaces, it isn't flying, it is public speaking. I could see being afraid of snakes. I mean, they can hurt you. Some could. I could see being afraid of big dogs. They can hurt you. I I could sort of even see being afraid of flying because there's a sense of you're just totally vulnerable up there, and if anything really bad happens, well, that's kind of it. You can't pull over. Why public speaking? What is it about speaking in front of a group of people that engenders such fear for so many people? Nobody's going to hurt you. Nobody's thinking, if I get up in church and I make the announcements after Mass, I'm just so nervous, my hands are shaking and I can't do it. My voice is breathy. No way, no way. I don't think anybody in church is going to throw anything at you, are they? What is the fear factor? People looking at you? It's kind of like a little kid. Tell them to quit looking at me. What would their looks indicate? That you've got lettuce in your teeth? Your socks don't match? What is it about a bunch of people looking at you that creates fear? I'll be incompetent. I won't be good at what I'm doing. They'll see that I'm nervous. They'll see that I'm not really speaking well because I'm sounding like this. What is so bad about that you can never, ever speak in front of a group? What is it? There are those I know who would love to be lectors at church. They would love to read Scripture at church. They won't. There's no chance. Not a way. Not a way. Why? Fear of how they'll come across. But why is that so scary? What is it about looking less than totally, supremely confident that is so fearful? I speak a lot to groups. And I had an interesting experience probably about 2 years ago. I probably have spoken over my career 3,000 times to various groups. Matter of fact, that was something that almost kept me off of Catholic radio. Because predominantly I was doing that and I didn't want to be tied to a microphone 5 days a week because speaking, you have to travel. But I worked it out so I could do both. But I had an experience about 2 years ago when the opportunity to lecture at church came up. And I thought, wow, yeah, boy, that'd be great. I would love to do that. I'd love to be able to read the readings and hopefully give the right pause and to speak forthrightly enough and to respect God's words. Boy, wouldn't that be nice? That's great. So I'm sitting in the pew before my debut of my first reading. And I'm getting nervous. I mean, I'm getting really nervous. I'm thinking to myself, what is going on here? I've spoken to groups everywhere, of all sizes. Why is this happening? Well, as I thought about it later, I realized why. It's a different venue. It's also not my words, but God's words, and they deserve utmost respect, so I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. I wanted to do it well. But I pondered that, and I think for me, the biggest thing was I didn't want to blow it. I didn't want to read poorly. I didn't want to lose my place. I didn't want to mispronounce some of those words. We are Parthians and Medes and Laodiceans. Remember that reading? I got that reading one time. So it still perplexes me that so many, they estimate 75% of people fear public speaking. perplexes me. What is it actually about addressing a group, whether it's 20 people, whether it's 100 people? What is it that causes the fear? There's no danger there. Nobody's going to hurt you. And even if you say, well, I don't know, I don't like that attention on me. Okay. It's one thing to say I don't like the attention. It's quite another to say I absolutely can't do it. I'm forced to conclude that it is a creation in our head that we've decided is so risky that we just don't even want to attempt it. But in fact, of those people who were forced to attempt it, they found out it wasn't as risky as they thought. And everything didn't collapse like they thought. And if they had shaking hands, they could put them on the podium so nobody could see. And their nervousness was felt only by them. Nobody else really felt it. And ultimately it went away, which is what happened to me after my first 3 or 4 Sunday readings. I was back to being very comfortable reading again, kind of like I feel in giving a presentation somewhere. Always fascinated me. Why that fear? Because if you really look at it, it's kind of the least risky of fears. I'm Dr. Ray.
Steve Ray here. Next year's a Jubilee year, and we're going to celebrate it in Rome. But not only Rome. This is our Saints and Shrines of Italy pilgrimage, and joining us is our good friend Teresa Tamio.
Yes, Steve, fantastical. Walking through the holy doors, immersing ourselves in the deeply Catholic culture of Italy. I'll be joining you and Janet in Florence and Assisi.
Join us this May for the Jubilee year from Milan to Florence and much more, all the way to Rome.
Find the Ave Maria Radio travel tab at AveMariaRadio.net. When your children consider going to college, where are you going to find a place that will prepare them for the future and build on the foundation that you've laid? The answer? Ave Maria University. With an authentically Catholic curriculum, including 35 majors, AMU prepares students to take on the world.
My daughter told me she was published in a scientific journal as an undergrad. I'm so proud of her. The world needs Catholic physicists, and my daughter's going to be one of them.
Learn more at AveMaria.edu. That's AveMaria.edu. Italy aficionado Teresa Tamio's newest book is coming soon to the Ave Maria online store. In Italy's Shrines and Wonders, Teresa Tamio provides how best to navigate the most popular sites, best routes, and how to best soak in all the beauty Italy has to offer. She also shares the most inspiring journeys to make your Italy excursion utterly unforgettable. Shrines and Wonders from Catholic Connections, Teresa Tamio will be found soon at AveMariaRadio.net.
CMF Curo is a Catholic healthcare ministry providing families nationwide with a better solution centered around whole health, spirit, mind, and body. Our members share their medical burdens within a faith-filled community. At CMF Curo, our members have access to a spiritual director, concierge services, and other health and spiritual resources. Find out if CMF Curo is a better solution for your family. Visit mycatholichealthcare.com. That's mycatholichealthcare.com.
Dressed in shorts, but speaking as though I'm in tuxedo. Life, discipline, and the pursuit of holiness. Dr. Ray Garendi, program doctor, is in Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on some 400 plus EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network stations, Sirius Satellite Channel 130, as well as all kinds of streaming places all over the place. When our Lord said, proclaim the gospel to the whole world, I know if I'd have been standing there, I'd have thought to myself, well, I don't know exactly how big the world is, but it's probably a lot bigger than I think, and even if I can walk 10 miles a day, I don't know if I can get the whole world in. And our Lord, being, of course, all-knowing, would say, Raymond, Raymond, Raymond. It's going to come a day when the gospel will be in the air. And all you will have to do is have some device to pull it out of the air. Realize that? Where you're sitting right now, gospel's floating all around you. All you got to do is just pull it down. This was a call we got probably some weeks ago. They couldn't stay on the air. We are struggling with a pregnant 22-year-old daughter who is in our home and is using marijuana and other drugs. She's lived away for 5 years. That must mean she left around 7, well, perhaps maybe 18, but might have left before that. She lived away for 5 years in a same-sex relationship, hates any religious talk, and is now extremely combative. I don't know exactly what all that means. We're talking physical here. At what point do we set up a boundary? As she has no place to go, but is tearing us and our family apart, and using her pregnancy to make us feel guilty about wanting to kick her out. She does nothing all day. She's on her phone with her 2 cats in her bedroom. If we confront her about her behavior or lack of any action regarding the plan for this baby, she explodes. Tells us how we are terrible parents, and she uses very destructive language. My husband keeps telling me to get on my knees and pray. Also, it's rather critical here. We have 3 younger kids in the home. Let me preface this by saying it is not my role to tell you what to do in this situation. This is a decision you have to make. Only you know the factors involved. I don't. I only know what little bit in this small email. Give you a few thoughts, though, some generic thoughts, some commonalities in situations like this. This is definitely one of the trickier ones because there is a little baby involved. In this case, the baby is in the womb. But in many cases, parents will tell me, yeah, there's a 2-year-old or there's a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, and this parent is unbelievably irresponsible, if not pathological, and they're devastated and frightened to death about saying you can't live here because the children, the innocent children. Usually I suggest they have to make a decision. If their prime goal is to protect those children, then they're going to have to decide how much they're going to accept in terms of behavior from this parent. Also, they're going to have to shut up because you can't give any instruction or any guidance because it just blows up. So, in essence, what you're saying is we're letting you live here because we're concerned about the baby. And that's a decision some make. Now, on the other hand, some say, I don't know if we're helping our daughter or the baby. First of all, she's using drugs. She's pregnant. There's a major problem here. It's a significant problem. Are you supporting her? Where is she getting money for drugs? You say she does nothing all day, which I'm going to assume she doesn't work. So somehow, some way, she's living off of you materially. Apparently, there's a long, long history here of hostility. I mean, she basically stayed away from you for 5 years. Something must have happened that forced her to come back home. It's not where she wants to be, but she figures that's her only option. You could explore social services, social supports. Obviously, there are places for pregnant mothers to go to live or to get support. You could do that. A complicating factor here is those younger ones watching all this. What are they thinking? Are they thinking, what happened to mom and dad? Where did their authority go? Are they thinking that, well, I guess this is the rules. Once you get old enough, you can do what you want, and mom and dad really have no say? Are they thinking that? Are they thinking that we had a nice family, now it's miserable, it's horrible, it's terrible. Mom and dad are miserable, there's a lot of fighting, there's awful, we're hearing language that nobody was allowed to use in this house before, and now she just uses it routine. What are they thinking? You might want to sit down and ask them how they feel about all this. That's huge. That is huge. But then you said one other thing I'd like to address. You said, my husband keeps telling me to get on my knees and pray. Yeah, that's good. But what does that mean? Is he saying we have no options? She's going to live here, and I don't agree with you deciding what to do about all this because we can't. She has to stay because of the baby, and therefore just get on your knees and pray. Is that what he's saying? So in other words, does that mean there's disagreement between mom and dad regarding what to do about this? And that's very common, by the way. That happens all the time. One parent says, I can't take this anymore. It's ruining our family. We're not helping her by allowing this to go on. And the other parent says, we have no choice. We have to do this. We have to endure. That is the key question. Are you helping her? Is this helping her? It's allowing her to use drugs. It's allowing her to completely, totally shut down in terms of any kind of responsibility. It is allowing her to be nasty and combative. And I don't quite know what that means, but combative to me usually means physical. Is this helping her? I think it's safe to say if she's using drugs, she's hurting the baby. She's hurting the baby. Would, in fact, if she had to be forced to rely upon social services or other supports, would that make it a little more likely that she would pull it together? And then the question becomes, how long? How long will you do this? When the baby's born, then what? Will it still be the same situation? Typically, there is a limit to the most tolerant parent in situations like this. It gets so ugly and so bad that finally they say, we have no option. We have to make a distinct move. But there's always the hope of one parent or both that things will somehow straighten up. But you have to look at the history. You have to look at how long this has been going on to make that judgment. Is this a young lady who's just down on her luck? Or is this a young lady who is flat out uncooperative and has been hostile toward everything her parents stand for quite a while? Dr. Ray.
60 Seconds with Father Mitch Pacwa.
The state has responsibility to orient things, but they can't take over the rights of the family, like in China, to have one child and that's it. It's a disaster over there. How many tens of millions of abortions have gone on? And one of the things that, as a result of that, is because of the preference to have boy children rather than girls, you have, for every 1,000 boys, there are 850 girls. This is a great imbalance. Same thing is going on in northern India. So this is where the government cannot take away the primary and inalienable responsibility of married couples and families. And they cannot employ methods which fail to respect the person and fundamental human rights. Beginning with the right to life, the government cannot force you to kill innocent human beings and still be a humanistic government. It's an evil government.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
What three virtues are embodied in the first commandment? The Catholic Catechism, paragraphs 2084 through 2086, tell us that the first commandment encompasses the three theological virtues, faith, hope, and charity. In this commandment, God calls us to worship the Lord your God, and him only shall you serve. When we say God, we confess our belief in a constant, unchangeable being, always faithful and just, without evil. It naturally follows that we accept his words and thus have complete faith in him. Since he is almighty, merciful, and beneficent, how could we not place our hope in him? Finally, who could not love a Creator who has poured out his love, his goodness, and his gifts on us? This is Peggy Stanton, and this has been the Order of Malta's Minute with the Catechism.
The doctor is in, tested at 1.6%. Psychobabble, far below the national average of 32% per expert. Longest sustained period of no psychobabble of any show, below 5%. So I'm not comfortable with where you're at, and I can't hear where you're coming from. If you need examples. This is ePerson Monday. Hi, Dr. Ray. We are stumped at our house. About a month ago, we received a 16-month-old foster baby. He was brought to us right as we were packing up to run away from Hurricane Milton. On our 6-hour drive to Tallahassee, he sat next to my 15-year-old daughter and was happy, having a great time laughing with all of us. Over that 6-hour car ride, it seems he developed a really unhealthy attachment to Maddie. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. That's an interpretation. When you say really unhealthy, what you seem to be saying is, well, because he was so attached to her, or now keep in mind now, he just met her. So this is a 16-month-old kid who, for whatever the reason, whether it's insecurity, comfort, whatever, he latched on to that little 15-year-old and loved it. And when you say it's an unhealthy attachment, it's probably not unhealthy. Now, that's not to say it won't breed bad behavior, which I think it's going to do. He's very well behaved for me and my husband, and he definitely understands we're the parents and the authority. But there is something about my daughter, Maddie, that triggers his worst behavior. Well, it isn't Maddie that triggers his worst behavior. It's it's desire not to share Maddie, I think. And she goes on to say that. He doesn't want to share her, and he pulls our other children's hair or slaps them when they are around Maddie. He also slaps and pulls her hair. Now, that's a contradiction, Dr. Ray. Okay. Well, first of all, he's 16 months old, and he's a foster child, so we really don't know his history. You don't really know how much this poor little guy lacked in his early development. So the fact that he is latched on to this first contact that he became very comfortable with emotionally. All right. Now, you got to deal with the hitting and the slapping and the pinching and the pulling. You do have to do that. You have to deal with it because it's misbehavior. He can have a nice attachment to her, but he can't do this to other kids because of it. That's all. That's all it means. Will this be something long term? I highly doubt it. I mean, he just got there. And little kids are capable of doing all kinds of things that are perplexing. And you look at them. And the danger is you overinterpret them. You call it things like an unhealthy attachment. It's not an unhealthy attachment. He just latched on to Maddie. Who knows what his little mind, which is not even capable of all that much language, is thinking. All right. Well, let's see. He does that kind of... Oh, wait a minute. He whines at her constantly, wants to hold her hand and be held by her, and if she doesn't, he loses it. Okay, he's throwing a fit. Put him in a playpen. Do what you have to do. Sit him in a chair. Do something. He's not allowed to go crazy on you. Or you can ignore it if he's not destroying anything. That's all right. So he loses it. He'll get over it. He'll realize, whoops, this ain't working. I can't have her all to myself. He does that with me, but not as extreme. When he does the slapping, the hair pulling, we sit him down. He sits for a minute in the room we're in. After a minute, we'll ask him to say sorry, and he pretty much does that every time. But that's pretty good for a 16-month-old. I'm impressed. Okay. She says, I've been pretty impressed with this. Yeah, I've been too. Some things that we definitely take into consideration is he's been in foster care for several months. He has already had 2 other placements and went to daycare. You see what I'm saying? Here's a kid who could easily be predisposed to cling. Why wouldn't he be? He's been bounced around, of course. This is interesting. He's also had a couple of seizures. So he spent a lot of time, and she says in the foster. I think what she meant was in the hospital. For a while, okay, maybe it was foster home. For a while, he would be there during the day, and then they would find him a place to sleep at night. So in a small amount of time, he's had a tremendous amount of instability. Exactly. So when you got that kind of stuff, you expect quirks from the child. You're going to get them. You're going to get oddities. You're going to get little things that, quote unquote, look psychologically abnormal, but they're to be expected. And the really, really good news is he's only 16 months old. His comprehension about all this, it's more just emotionally reactive, is all it is. He doesn't understand that it's not right to demand that he have all of attention. He doesn't understand that. We are new to being a foster care family, and we aren't sure what the best answer to handling this situation might be. We thought you might know a thing or two in this department. And then she laughed. Looking forward to getting this resolved. Well, it's going to resolve. What I think you're saying is there some kind of technique that'll make this happen faster? No, you're going to have to respond, teaching him that what he's doing because of his attachment is going to be disciplined. You can't do this. Now, as he lives in your home, my guess would be that he'll start to spread out his attachment. You already said he does some of this with you. All right, so now he's got 2 people that he's feeling kind of attached and comfortable with. But that may spread. That may spread to Dad. May spread if there's brothers and sisters. Well, you got Maddie, of course. I don't know if there's anybody else. I'm going to assume there are probably some younger ones. So that makes sense. I know when we adopted our 2 4-year-olds, their attachment occurred quickly to one of the children, but then it spread. Pretty soon they became comfortable with pretty much most everybody. But initially, and we couldn't really explain exactly why they latched on, to one particular, who knows what goes on in a little kid's mind? Something goes in there, does a couple of backflips, twists and turns its way around, and it comes out as behavior. And the behavior can look goofy, but it's not pathological. That's the thing you got to not worry about. This is not pathological. It's perfectly understandable, given his history, given the fact that he's had some seizures too, that you don't know what that does a little bit to his whole perception process.
Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo.
While I was working at this Protestant station, in the midst of being challenged by former Catholics, I received this book from Ascension Press, and I became hooked on apologetics. I discovered Catholic Answers. I discovered EWTN. I started listening to all these programs. I would just go to local Catholic bookstores and grab every single book I could on apologetics. Deep in my heart, I knew that it was true, and I trusted the Church for her 2,000 years of teaching. I knew a certain amount of Scripture, but I wasn't able to defend it as well. That period of my life where I worked in Christian radio and was challenged by former Catholics, as painful as it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because it really forced me to dive in more deeply and fall even more in love with the Catholic Church.
Catholic Connections, Teresa Tomeo. Weekdays, 9 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Christ is the answer with Father John Riccardo.
He always starts with the good things. You know, the 7 letters to the churches and the book of Revelation is a great way to write letters to other people, by the way, or to have conversations with other people. You start with what's going well. You do this, this, and this really well. I love it. Thank you. Here's what you're lacking. And I think for many of us as men, what the Lord's communicating at that second part of the letter or the second part of the conversation is, here's what we're lacking. You don't ever spend enough time with me. You have no idea what I'm trying to offer you in the gift of my friendship. Or if you do, you don't make time for it. And if you would but come to me, I would change your life like that. But you don't come. Not with the regularity that I want you to come. Not with the ardor and the fervor and the passion that I want you to come. I have a hunch, like more than a hunch, that's what he says to me. And I got a hunch that's what he would say to many of us.
Thank you so much for joining me here on The Doctor Is In, Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Dr. Ray Grandy, website, drray.com. All the books are there. And Facebook and Instagram. Greetings, Dr. Ray. I've been one of your 168 listeners for many years now. Whenever I feel my IQ starting to sink, I binge listen to your podcast to bring it back up. Alas, as a father of 13 years, the effects are just not as strong as they once were. This is true. They've done studies, and I think they've assessed that the average kid siphons off about 7 IQ points in a parenting journey. But some of them come back, although maybe not all of them. And then when you become a grandparent, then you start to lose them again because you act like a grandparent. Speaking of which, I'm listening to one of your recent episodes featuring a grandma who likes giving gifts to her grandchildren, but there was a distinct lack of gratitude coming back to her. This one really resonated with me because for about 15 years, well, you got a lot of perseverance in you, my friend, I've experienced something similar from my brother and his family. They live out of town. Every year we host them for a few days. They come over. We cook and entertain. Try to throw out suggestions for activities, but we've really had to deal with a lot of rudeness and misbehavior. Now, I'm going to assume that's from his kids. More, there was no gratitude shown during the entire visit. Okay, I think he is talking about the kids here, because he goes on to say, sure, we would try to encourage manners when those kids were younger, but we know a few days a year aren't going to do much for influence. Well, that's true, but you can still expect manners in your home. It's not a matter of necessarily teaching them manners. It's a matter of, this is how we operate here. You do that. And he goes on to say, we tried to set the bar. There he goes. I anticipated what he was going to say before he said it. We tried to set the bar for behavior in our home. After these many years, we've adjusted. He says, i.e., lowered our expectations, and we just try to make the best of it. We just finished hosting again this year, and something strange happened. For the first time in my memory, their oldest son, now in his 20s, said thank you after every meal. What's that now? Now I'm going to stop there. I don't know what it is about this son as he got older and started to mature in his view of things, or how that happened, why it happened. Maybe he just started to become a little more perceptive about proper social etiquette. I don't know. I don't know what it is. That happens a lot. That kids who formerly were kind of rude or surly or unpleasant or ungrateful, as they get a little older, they become different people. They become better people. Dr. Ray, we were surprised to say the least. And to make things even more shocking, about a week after the visit, we received handmade thank you cards through the mail. What is going on? That sounds like the parents stepped in. I don't think all the kids were going to independently say, hey, let's send them some thank you cards. We haven't been doing that for 15 years. Maybe it's about time. No, my guess would be something changed with the parents. Maybe they decided, our kids aren't real pleasant about a lot of things. Our kids are kind of entitled. I don't like what's happened here. And then they said, let's do this. Now, I agree with you. I don't necessarily think this is going to make them grateful kids, but the parents did make a statement, which is, you owe them a lot of thanks for what they did. My wife was absolutely floored. We don't really know what caused the turn in events, but all I can say is, you just never know what's going to happen. It took a solid 15 years, but we got those thank yous that we had pretty much given up on. Yeah, and I think you were opening your home to your brother and his kids because that's what you wanted to do, because that's you thought was a good thing to do. It's a family thing. It was a warm thing. It was a charitable thing. Maybe you wanted them to see how people of faith live. Whatever your reasons, you were doing a good thing. And in doing that good thing, you decided, we will continue to do this even though there's no sign of gratitude in return. Your perseverance, in that sense, paid off. Let's see what happens next year. I'm Dr. Ray.
Hey, Dr. Ray. Hey, Dr. Ray. Hey, Dr. Ray. The doctor is in.
This program brought to you in part by the town of Ave Maria, Florida.
Ave Maria, a big kind of small town. A golf cart friendly, ride your bike everywhere kind of town with something for everyone. Resort style amenities, 2 golf courses, shopping, and dining in our town center. With Ave Maria University and Ave Maria Catholic Church at the core of the community and a wide range of homes to meet your family's needs. Visitors are welcome. More information can be found at avemaria.com. Ave Maria, a big kind of small town.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866 Ave Maria or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
He is honored by the Church as a saint with the title of the Angelic Doctor.
Matthew Bunson and the Doctors of the Church.
St. Thomas Aquinas wrote a basic textbook for young theology students that became the Church's most famous guide to the faith, the Summa Theologica. It helped him earn the title Doctor of the Church. He died in 1274.
For more about the Doctors of the Church, visit doctorsofthechurch.com.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Are you paying high prices with a traditional health insurance company that pays for things that violate your conscience? There's an alternative available. Solidarity HealthShare is a community of faithful individuals and families that never share into immoral medical services, all while saving you money with prices starting as low as $85 per month for singles and $512 for families. Never fund another abortion with your healthcare dollars. Call 844-313-4999 to learn more.
Thank you for joining me. Dr. Ray Grandy, program. Doctor is in. All right, this is the Monday variant of the Doctor is in. This is E-Person Monday. We've got time for one more quick E-Person. My son watches television every chance he gets. If I try to limit him, his comeback is that as long as he gets good grades, and then she says he does get A's and B's, television is not hurting his schoolwork or anything else in his life. Oh, man, that's a short E-person, but there are so many directions to take it from. All right. He watches television every chance he gets. Who decides that? Does he? So in other words, I've got time, I'm going to go turn the TV on. Is that what happens? Now, the parent says, if I try to limit him, well, is it a try or do we limit him? In other words, the TV does not go on. It's not going to happen. Now, in these cases, I've had a lot of parents tell me it doesn't matter because they're just going to go over and turn it on anyway, over and above my wishes. But it's not a matter of trying to limit him. It's a matter of, no, you're watching too much TV. It's interfering with a whole lot of other stuff. Then he says, I get good grades. Well, first of all, A's and B's ain't what they used to be. 30, 40, 50 years ago, you got A's and B's. That was pretty good. That put you at the top of your class. Nowadays, everybody gets A's and B's. Grade inflation's all over the place. More important to have self-image than to achieve. So says the theory. So he says he gets good grades. Therefore, I'm doing my bit. Why can't I do what else I want? Then he says because he gets A's and B's, television is not hurting his schoolwork. Well, that's first of all debatable. Because one, maybe without television and maybe with a little more effort, he wouldn't get A's and B's, he'd get all A's. So that's first thing. But the second thing is it doesn't hurt anything else in his life? How do you gauge that? My wife and I watch certain series at night. We stream them. The commercials are hideous. They're absolutely wretched in terms of their morals, in terms of their vileness. They're horrid. And I only can imagine all the kids, especially the adolescents, who watch certain shows and these commercials by the thousands and thousands are beat into their head. It's not going to hurt them. At the very least, it's going to alter how they think morally. It is. But more than that, it's going to desensitize them to anything that at one time would have been viewed as wrong or inappropriate or vile. He's attempting to twist your head around, Mom or Dad, with this, I get good grades. Leave me alone. Huh? I think a lot of parents fall for that one. There's a broader version of it. I talk about it in one of my books where the kids will say, I get good grades. I'm not in trouble with the law. I don't do half the things my friends do. I don't see why I can't. And then they enter privilege here. You tell me if I'm responsible, I'm going to get more privileges. I'm being responsible and I'm still not getting privileges. Well, more accurately, you're not getting the privileges you want. You're getting privileges, just not at the level and the speed with which you would like them. Now, see, you could say that to a kid. Not going to make any difference. They're not going to agree with it. He's not going to agree with the fact that television does have a bad influence on him. And it needs to be limited. And the shows he watches need to be limited. And Mom and or Dad can set the rule. He's not going to agree with that. Why would he? He already sees it a certain way. I'm convinced now, probably more than ever in the history of parenting, that because of the onslaught of the culture's ability to essentially invade the home through media, through the internet, through television, through the computer, just so many ways for the cultural secular humanism, the cultural decay can enter the home and essentially compete with the parents. Most of human history, the parents were the main influences by far. There wasn't a whole lot of other stuff that could come into that home if you didn't let it. Not now. I mean, it's coming at the kids like a tsunami. And so what happens is they see it and they think that's the right way to view life. That's the right way to view religion. That's the right way to be responsible. That's the right way to think morally. Why? Well, because all that other stuff is telling them that, and it's really entertaining, and it's really fast-paced, and it's really kind of cool, and it's really what all the other kids are looking at. So Mom and Dad are kind of out-of-touch Neanderthal throwbacks. And I think a little bit that's happening here, and I would wonder if this young man only spends his time on TV, or how much time does he spend on his internet or his phone? How much of it is, as long as I get good grades, I'm a good kid? Good grades shows you have ability and maybe some motivation. It is not a comment on your moral virtue. I've known a lot of kids who get decent grades, and in fact, regarding morality, they probably earn an F. So, Mom, You're allowed to set your limits. Don't try to limit him. Limit him. Ignore his comeback. Yep, thank you for your grades. They're halfway decent. But the television is doing things to you that you may not think are a problem. Thanks for joining me here on The Doctor Is In on this E-Person Monday. I'm Dr. Ray Guarendi, coming to you, good Lord permitting, Monday through Friday. Eric Dumont is my producer on the program. I'll see you tomorrow. Again, good Lord permitting. Walk with God. He knows what's best for you.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.